Marcus Thompson dropped his umbrella. Rain hammered his face, but he didn't move. Couldn't move. His boots were cemented to the asphalt as the woman in the police uniform turned around. 10 years. 10 years since she walked out of his life without looking back. 10 years since she told him he wasn't enough. 10 years since she shattered everything he thought he knew about love. And now Sarah Mitchell, the woman who left him 3 weeks before their wedding, stood 6 feet away, soaking wet, wearing a badge. "Marcus?" Her voice cracked. Is that really you?" He should have kept driving. Comment below what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The wipers couldn't keep up. Marcus Thompson leaned forward, squinting through the windshield as sheets of rain turned the highway into a gray blur. His truck was old, 15 years old to be exact, but she'd never failed him, not once, which was more than he could say about most things in his life. He flexed his fingers on the steering wheel. His hands were tired. Hell, everything was tired. 35 years old, and some mornings he woke up feeling 50. That's what working 2 jobs did to a man. Mechanic by day at Rodriguez Auto Repair. Security guard 3 nights a week at the warehouse on 5th Street. But he wasn't complaining. Complaining didn't pay the bills. Complaining didn't put food on the table for Zoe. Zoe. Just thinking her name made something warm spread through his chest. His little girl. 7 years old, with her mother's eyes but her daddy's stubborn streak. She was at his mama's house right now, probably talking the old woman's ear off about some cartoon or another. Marcus smiled despite his exhaustion. 3 years ago, when Denise walked out, when she told him she'd found someone better, her word, not his, Marcus thought his world had ended. He remembered standing in their empty bedroom, her closet cleaned out, her side of the bathroom bare, and wondering how he was supposed to keep breathing. Then Zoe had walked in, clutching her stuffed rabbit, and asked, "Daddy, why are you crying?" That's when Marcus learned something important. You don't get to fall apart when someone's counting on you. So he didn't. The rain intensified. Marcus checked his rearview mirror. Nothing but darkness and water behind him. The highway was empty this time of night. Smart people were home, warm and dry. Marcus had never been accused of being smart. That's when he saw it. Hazard lights blinking through the downpour. A police cruiser on the shoulder, hood up, a figure hunched beside it. His foot eased off the gas. Every black man in America knew the calculation, saw it running through their minds like code whenever blue lights appeared. The risk assessment. The survival math. A lone woman cop broken down on a deserted highway at night. A black man pulling over to help. How many ways could that go wrong? Marcus knew the answer. All of them. He should keep driving. Call it in when he got to town. Let someone else handle it. His foot moved toward the gas pedal. Then he thought about Zoe. About what he was trying to teach her. About the kind of man he wanted to be. Not just for her, but for himself. "Damn it," he muttered. He pulled onto the shoulder. The rain hit him like a wall when he stepped out. Cold. Relentless. He grabbed the umbrella from behind his seat, the cheap one he'd bought at the dollar store, and jogged toward the cruiser. "Hey!" he called out, raising his voice above the storm. "You need some help, officer?" The woman straightened from under the hood. Her uniform was soaked through, her hair plastered to her face. She turned around. Marcus stopped. The umbrella slipped from his fingers. For a moment, just a moment, he forgot about the rain, forgot about the cold, forgot about everything except the face staring back at him. Sarah? The name came out broken, like it had been locked away so long it didn't know how to sound anymore. The officer's professional expression crumbled. Her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Marcus?" she finally managed. "Marcus Thompson?" He couldn't speak, couldn't think, could only stand there, rain streaming down his face, heart pounding against his ribs like it was trying to escape. Sarah Mitchell. The woman he'd loved since freshman year of college. The woman who'd said yes when he proposed on the bridge overlooking the river. The woman who'd stood in his apartment 3 weeks before their wedding and said the words that had haunted him ever since. "I can't do this, Marcus. I'm sorry. I'm not ready." And then she was gone. Moved to California the next week. No forwarding address, no explanation, no closure. Just gone. "What are you—" Marcus stopped, swallowed, tried again. "What the hell are you doing here?" Sarah took a step toward him, then stopped, uncertain. The rain had washed away whatever makeup she'd been wearing, and he could see her clearly now. The same brown eyes, the same small scar on her chin from when she'd fallen off her bike as a kid. The same face that had lived in his memories and his nightmares for a decade. But there were differences, too. Lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. A weariness in her expression. Something harder in the set of her jaw. "I live here," she said. "Moved back about 2 years ago. Joined the force after the academy." "You live here?" Marcus heard his voice rising and didn't care. "In this town? For 2 years? Marcus, and you never thought to—" He cut himself off, shook his head. What was he doing? What did it matter? It was ancient history. "Forget it. What's wrong with your car?" Sarah blinked at the sudden shift. "Battery, I think. It just died. I've been out here 20 minutes waiting for a tow, but with this storm—" Marcus was already moving toward the hood. "I've got cables in my truck. Might be able to jump it." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." The words came out sharper than he intended. He didn't look at her. "Just let me do this, and we can both get out of the rain." He retrieved the jumper cables from his truck, refusing to meet her eyes as he walked past. His hands were shaking, and not from the cold. He focused on the task, connecting the cables, checking the connections, anything to keep from thinking about the woman standing 3 feet away. The woman who had broken him. "Marcus," he kept working. "Marcus, please, can we just—" "There's nothing to talk about." He connected the last cable. "Go try your engine." She hesitated, like she wanted to say something else. Then she walked to her cruiser and slid behind the wheel. The engine turned over. Once, twice. On the 3rd try, it roared to life. Marcus disconnected the cables without a word. He was coiling them up when Sarah got out of the car again. "Thank you," she said. "I really appreciate—" "Don't mention it." He started walking back to his truck. "Marcus, wait." Something in her voice made him stop. He didn't turn around, but he stopped. "I know I don't have any right to say this," Sarah said. "I know I lost that right a long time ago. But I've thought about you. Every single day for 10 years, I've thought about what I did. About how I left." Marcus closed his eyes. The rain was letting up now, but he barely noticed. "I was 23 years old and terrified," she continued. "My whole life, everyone told me what I was supposed to be. What kind of person I was supposed to marry. What kind of life I was supposed to have. And you were real. You were good, and I didn't think I deserved that." He turned around slowly. "So you ran." "So I ran," her voice cracked. "And I've regretted it every day since." Marcus stared at her. The anger was still there. God, was it still there? But underneath it, something else stirred. something he thought he'd buried a long time ago. "I looked for you," he said quietly, "after you left. Called your parents, your friends, anyone who might know where you went. Your mother told me to stop calling. Said you'd moved on, and I should too." Sarah winced. "My mother, she never approved of us. After I left, she made sure I couldn't come back. Convinced me I'd made the right choice." She laughed bitterly. "Took me 5 years to realize she was wrong. Another 3 to work up the courage to come home." "And the 2 years since?" She looked away. "I didn't know if you'd want to see me. Didn't know if you were married, had kids, had a life. I figured I'd done enough damage." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The rain had stopped completely now, leaving the air thick and heavy. "I was married," he finally said, "for 4 years. Her name was Denise." Sarah's expression flickered. "Was?" "She left 3 years ago. Found someone with more money, bigger dreams." He shrugged, but the gesture was anything but casual. "I've got a daughter, Zoe. She's 7. "A daughter?" Sarah's voice was soft. "You're a father." "Best thing that ever happened to me." Marcus meant it. "She's the reason I get up in the morning. The reason I work 2 jobs and come home smelling like motor oil and sweat. She's everything." Sarah nodded slowly. "She's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one." They stood there in the empty highway, 2 people who had once meant everything to each other, now strangers, bound by history and rain. "I should go," Marcus said. "My mom is expecting me to pick up Zoe." "Of course." Sarah reached into her cruiser and pulled out a card. "This is my number. For emergencies. Or if you ever want to talk. No pressure." Marcus looked at the card, but didn't take it. "I'm not asking for anything," Sarah said quickly. "I know I don't have the right. I want you to know that I'm here. And I'm sorry. For everything." After a long pause, Marcus took the card. He didn't look at it, just slipped it into his pocket. "Good night, Officer Mitchell." "Good night, Marcus." He walked back to his truck, started the engine, pulled onto the highway without looking back. But 3 miles down the road, he pulled into a gas station parking lot and sat there, hands gripping the wheel, staring at nothing. Sarah Mitchell. After all these years. He pulled the card from his pocket and looked at it for the first time. Her name, her number, and underneath, handwritten in blue ink, "I'm sorry. I never stopped being sorry." Marcus sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes before he finally drove to his mother's house. Evelyn Thompson knew something was wrong the moment her son walked through the door. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, studying his face with the sharp eyes that had never missed anything in 62 years. "I'm fine, Mama." "Boy, don't you lie to me. I changed your diapers. I know when you're fine and when you're not. And right now, you are definitely not." Marcus sighed. There was no point arguing with Evelyn Thompson. There never had been. "Where's Zoe?" "Asleep on the couch. She tried to stay up for you, but she couldn't make it past 9. Evelyn crossed her arms. "Now tell me what happened." Marcus sank into the kitchen chair he'd sat in 1,000 times before. The same chair he'd sat in when he told his mother he was getting married. The same chair he'd sat in when he told her Sarah was gone. "I saw Sarah tonight." Evelyn's expression hardened. "Sarah Mitchell?" "She's a cop now. Moved back here 2 years ago. Her car broke down on the highway and I stopped to help." "You should have kept driving." "Mama." "That woman nearly destroyed you, Marcus. I watched my son, my strong, proud son, fall apart because of her. I held you while you cried. I watched you drink yourself stupid for 6 months trying to forget her. And now she's back?" Evelyn shook her head. "Nothing good can come from this." "I know." "Do you? Because I see that look in your eyes, and it scares me." Marcus looked up. "What look?" "The same look you had when you were 22 years old and convinced she was the one." Evelyn sat down across from him. "Marcus, baby, you've got a good life now. You've got Zoe, you've got your job. You don't need some woman from your past coming in and stirring up trouble." She gave me her number. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "You throw that card away." "Mama, I mean it. You throw it away tonight. That woman made her choice 10 years ago. She doesn't get to waltz back in now, and I already put it in my wallet." The silence that followed was deafening. Evelyn stared at her son for a long moment. Then she sighed, a deep, heavy sigh that carried the weight of every mother who'd watched her child make a mistake they couldn't stop. "You're a grown man," she said finally. "I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you this. Zoe comes first. That little girl has already lost one mother. Don't you dare let another woman come in and break her heart." "I would never." "I know you wouldn't. Not on purpose." Evelyn reached across the table and took his hand. "But hearts don't break on purpose, baby. They break because we let people in who shouldn't be there." Marcus didn't have an answer for that. He carried Zoe to the car, her small body warm and heavy against his chest. She stirred slightly as he buckled her into her car seat. "Daddy?" "I'm here, baby girl. Did you have a good day?" Marcus thought about the rain, the hazard lights, the face that had haunted his dreams for a decade. "Yeah, sweetheart. I had a good day." "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Zoe. More than anything in this world." She was asleep again before they left the driveway. Marcus drove home in silence, his mother's warning echoing in his head. She was right. He knew she was right. Sarah Mitchell had no place in his life anymore. He had responsibilities now. He had Zoe. He should throw the card away. He should forget tonight ever happened. He should move on, like he'd been trying to do for 10 years. But when he got home, when he put Zoe to bed and kissed her forehead and turned off her nightlight, he didn't throw the card away. He put it in his nightstand drawer, and he lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell he was supposed to do now. 3 days passed. Marcus didn't call, didn't text, tried to convince himself he never would. He threw himself into work, staying late at the shop, taking extra shifts at the warehouse. Anything to keep busy. Anything to keep his mind off Sarah Mitchell. It didn't work. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped. Every time he saw a police cruiser on the street, his eyes searched for her face. He was acting like a lovesick teenager, and he hated himself for it. "You're distracted," Tony Rodriguez said on Thursday afternoon, sliding under a Honda Civic with practiced ease. "What's going on?" "Nothing." "That's the 3rd time you've grabbed the wrong wrench today. That's not nothing." Marcus sighed. Tony had been his boss for 6 years, but more than that, he'd become a friend. The kind of friend who called you on your bullshit. "I ran into someone from my past," Marcus admitted. "Someone I wasn't expecting to see." "A woman? How'd you know?" Tony laughed from under the car. "Because only a woman makes a man grab a socket wrench when he needs pliers. It's complicated. It's always complicated." Tony rolled out and sat up, wiping his hands on a rag. "Let me guess. Old girlfriend? Ex-wife?" "Ex-fiancée. She left me 3 weeks before our wedding. Moved across the country. I haven't seen her in 10 years. Tony whistled. "That's heavy." And now she's back? She's a cop. Moved back here 2 years ago. I stopped to help her with a flat battery the other night, and Marcus shook his head. I don't know what I'm doing, Tony. Do you still have feelings for her? I don't know. Yeah, you do. Tony stood up and clapped Marcus on the shoulder. Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say this. Carrying around that kind of hurt for 10 years, it weighs on you. Maybe talking to her would help you finally let it go. Or maybe it'll just open up old wounds. Only one way to find out. Marcus didn't respond. That night, after putting Zoe to bed, he sat in his living room holding his phone in one hand and Sarah's card in the other. His thumb hovered over the keypad. This is a mistake. He typed her number. You're an idiot, Thompson. He typed a message. It's Marcus. Are you free to talk? Don't do it. Don't you dare. He hit send. The response came 30 seconds later. I thought you wouldn't call. Yes, I'm free. There's a cafe on 5th and Main. Tomorrow, 7 p.m.? Marcus stared at the message. His mother's voice echoed in his head. Zoe comes first. His own voice answered. I know, Mama. I know. He typed back. I'll be there. The cafe was nearly empty when Marcus arrived. He'd changed his shirt 3 times before leaving the house, then felt stupid about it. This wasn't a date. This was... He didn't know what this was. Closure, maybe. A chance to finally say the things he'd been carrying for a decade. Sarah was already there, sitting in a booth near the back. She wasn't in uniform, just jeans and a simple sweater, and somehow that made everything more real, more dangerous. She stood as he approached. You came. Said I would. They sat across from each other, the table between them feeling both too wide and not wide enough. Thank you for meeting me, Sarah said. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either. The waitress came. Coffee for him, tea for her. Some things never changed. So, Sarah said when they were alone again, where do we start? How about with the truth? Marcus's voice was harder than he intended. You said you weren't ready for commitment, but it was more than that, wasn't it? Sarah wrapped her hands around her cup. My mother, she had plans for me, always did. Marry someone successful, have the right kind of life, the right kind of family. She met his eyes. You didn't fit those plans. Because I was a mechanic? Because you were real, and that terrified me. Marcus leaned back. That's a hell of an excuse. I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you what happened. Sarah's voice trembled slightly. I was 23 years old, Marcus. I'd spent my whole life doing what my mother told me. When she said you weren't good enough, I believed her. And by the time I realized she was wrong, it was too late. It's been 10 years. You could have called. And said what? Sorry I destroyed your life. Want to grab coffee? She shook her head. I was ashamed. Every year that passed made it harder. I convinced myself you'd moved on, forgotten about me, that it was better to leave you alone. I never forgot you. The words came out before Marcus could stop them. I tried. God knows I tried. Married someone else, built a life, but I never forgot. Sarah's eyes glistened. Neither did I. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of lost years heavy between them. I have a daughter, Marcus said finally. Her name is Zoe. She's 7. You told me, the other night. She's my whole world. Whatever this is, whatever happens between us, she comes first. I need you to understand that. I do understand. Sarah reached across the table, then stopped herself, pulling her hand back. I'm not asking for anything, Marcus. I don't have any right to ask for anything. I wanted you to know the truth. And I wanted to say I'm sorry. Properly this time. You already said sorry. Then I'll say it again. I'm sorry. For leaving. For not fighting for us. For being too weak to stand up to my mother. I'm sorry for all of it.
Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since sitting down. He saw the regret in her eyes, the pain she'd been carrying, maybe as long as he'd been carrying his. I can't just forget what happened, he said quietly. I can't pretend it didn't almost break me. I'm not asking you to forget. Then what are you asking? Sarah took a deep breath. I'm asking for a chance, not to fix what I broke. I know I can't do that. But maybe to build something new, if you're willing. Marcus didn't answer. He thought about his mother's warning, about Zoe, about the 3 years he'd spent rebuilding his life from the wreckage Denise left behind. He thought about the nights he'd spent wondering what his life would have been like if Sarah had stayed. Coffee, he finally said. Sarah blinked. What? This is coffee. 1 cup of coffee. That's all I can promise right now. Sarah smiled. Small, hesitant, but real. 1 cup of coffee is more than I deserve. Yeah, Marcus said, but there was no malice in it. It probably is. They talked for 2 more hours. Not about the past. They'd said enough about that for one night. They talked about the present, her work on the force, his job at the shop, the challenges of starting over in a town that held so many memories. When they finally said goodnight in the parking lot, Sarah touched his arm briefly. Thank you, Marcus, for giving me a chance to explain. Don't thank me yet. I haven't decided anything. I know. She stepped back. Good night. Good night, Sarah. He watched her drive away before getting into his own truck. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Zoe's asking for you. Everything okay? Marcus typed back. On my way. Everything's fine. But as he started the engine, he wasn't sure if that was true. Because something had shifted tonight. Something he couldn't name and couldn't control. And he had no idea where it would lead. The coffee date turned into dinner the following Saturday. Marcus told himself it was just 2 old friends catching up. Nothing more. But when he found himself standing in front of his closet for 15 minutes, trying to decide between a blue shirt and a gray one, he knew he was lying to himself. Daddy, you look handsome. He turned to find Zoe standing in his doorway, her stuffed rabbit tucked under her arm. You think so? Uh-huh. Are you going somewhere special? Marcus knelt down to her level. I'm having dinner with a friend. What kind of friend? Just a friend, baby girl. Zoe studied him with those sharp eyes that reminded him so much of her grandmother. Is it a girl friend? You're too smart for your own good, you know that? Zoe giggled. Grandma says the same thing. Marcus kissed her forehead. Grandma's going to watch you tonight, okay? I won't be late. Okay, Daddy. She paused. I hope your friend is nice. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. His mother was already in the living room when he came downstairs. She took one look at him, and her expression tightened. You're seeing her again. It wasn't a question. Mama, please don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just stating a fact. Evelyn crossed her arms. You're a grown man, Marcus. I already told you I can't tell you what to do. But I can pray for you. I appreciate that. I'm praying you don't get your heart broken again. Marcus grabbed his keys from the hook by the door. That makes 2 of us. The restaurant Sarah had chosen was small, quiet,
The kind of place where people came to talk rather than be seen. She was already seated when he arrived, and she stood when she saw him approaching. "You came," she said, and there was genuine relief in her voice. "Said I would." They ordered. They talked. And somewhere between the appetizer and the main course, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Ease.
"Tell me about her," Sarah said, leaning forward. "Tell me about Zoe." Marcus's face softened, the way it always did when he talked about his daughter. "She's 7, going on 40. Smartest kid I've ever met. Stubborn as hell, gets that from me. She loves dinosaurs, hates broccoli, and she's convinced she's going to be an astronaut when she grows up." An astronaut? Last month, it was a veterinarian. Month before that, a chef. He smiled. "She's got big dreams. I'm just trying to make sure she never stops dreaming." "You're a good father, Marcus." "I'm trying to be." "No," Sarah shook her head. "I mean it. I see a lot of families in my job. A lot of kids who don't have anyone fighting for them. What you're doing for Zoe, it matters." Marcus looked down at his plate. Compliments had always made him uncomfortable, especially from her. "What about you?" he asked, changing the subject. "Why law enforcement?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "After I left California, after my so-called modeling career crashed and burned, I was lost. Didn't know who I was anymore. Then I saw this recruitment ad for the police academy, and something just clicked. I wanted to help people, wanted to do something that mattered. And does it matter? Some days. Other days I'm writing speeding tickets and wondering what the hell I'm doing with my life." She laughed softly. "But the days when I actually make a difference, those are the days that keep me going." Marcus nodded slowly. He understood that. The satisfaction of doing good work, the pride of building something with your own hands. Maybe they weren't so different after all. After dinner, they walked to their cars, the night air cool against their skin. "I had a good time," Sarah said. "Yeah, me too." "Does that surprise you?" Marcus considered the question. "A little, yeah." Sarah smiled. "Honesty. I always loved that about you. Got me in trouble more than once. Got you a lot of places." She hesitated, then reached out and touched his arm. "Thank you, Marcus, for giving me another chance. I know I don't deserve it." "Maybe not," he said, "but I'm glad I did." He drove home with the windows down, letting the night air clear his head. His mother was asleep on the couch when he got back, Zoe curled up beside her. He carried his daughter to bed, tucked her in, and stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her sleep. Sarah's words echoed in his mind. "You're a good father." He hoped she was right. The following weeks fell into a rhythm Marcus hadn't expected. Coffee dates became regular dinners. Dinners became movie nights. Movie nights became long walks where they talked about everything and nothing, filling in the gaps of 10 lost years. Sarah started showing up at the auto shop during her patrol, bringing coffee and staying for a few minutes of conversation. Tony noticed, of course. He noticed everything. "So that's the ex-fiancée," Tony said one afternoon, watching Sarah's cruiser pull away. "That's her. She seems nice." "She is nice." "She's also still wearing her ring finger bare." Tony raised an eyebrow. "Just saying." "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm implying that a woman doesn't bring a man coffee every day for 3 weeks, unless she's serious." Tony clapped him on the shoulder. "Just don't overthink it, brother. Sometimes good things happen to good people, even if it takes 10 years. Marcus wanted to believe that. He really did. But the past had taught him to be careful. The past had taught him that happiness could disappear in an instant, without warning, without explanation. He wasn't sure he could survive that again.
The first real test came on a Sunday afternoon. Marcus had promised Zoe a trip to the park. They were sitting on a bench, watching her run toward the swings, when a familiar voice cut through the air. "Well, well, isn't this cozy?" Marcus's whole body tensed. Denise, his ex-wife, stood a few feet away, arms crossed, a mocking smile on her face. She looked different, more polished, more expensive. The man she'd left him for had clearly been treating her well. "What are you doing here, Denise?" "It's a public park, Marcus. I'm allowed to be here." She sat down on the bench beside him, uninvited. "Besides, I wanted to see my daughter." "Funny how you only want to see her when it's convenient for you." Denise's smile tightened. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm stating a fact." They sat in hostile silence, watching Zoe play. She hadn't noticed her mother yet, and Marcus hoped it would stay that way. Denise's visits always left Zoe confused and upset, asking questions Marcus didn't know how to answer. "I heard you're seeing someone," Denise said casually. Marcus didn't respond. "A cop, right? Sarah something?" Denise laughed. "Small world. She gave me a speeding ticket last month." "I know."
"Oh, she told you about that?" Denise's eyes glittered.
"Interesting. Did she also tell you she didn't mention knowing you until after she'd already written the ticket?" "She was doing her job." "Was she?" Denise turned to face him fully. "Or was she making sure I knew my place?" "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" Denise leaned closer. "I've been asking around, Marcus. Your new girlfriend has quite a reputation. Driven, ambitious, doesn't let anything get in her way. Sound familiar?" "What's your point?" "My point is that women like her don't end up with men like you. Not unless they want something." The words hit harder than Marcus wanted to admit. He'd had the same thought himself, late at night, in the quiet moments when doubt crept in. "You don't know what you're talking about," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Denise smiled like she'd won something. "Just looking out for you, baby. Someone has to." "Don't call me that." "Mommy!" They both turned. Zoe had spotted Denise and was running toward them, her face lit up with excitement. "Hey, baby girl!" Denise opened her arms, and Zoe threw herself into them. "I missed you so much." "I missed you too, Mommy. Are you staying? Can we get ice cream? Daddy, can we get ice cream with Mommy?" Marcus looked at his daughter's hopeful face and felt his heart crack. She wanted so badly for things to be normal, for her mother to be present, to be consistent, to be there. But Denise had never been consistent, and Marcus knew that whatever this visit was about, it wasn't about Zoe. "Sure, sweetheart," he said, forcing a smile. "Let's get ice cream." The ice cream shop was crowded, filled with families enjoying their Sunday afternoon. Marcus watched Denise fuss over Zoe, fixing her hair, wiping ice cream from her chin, playing the role of devoted mother with practiced ease. It made him sick. "So," Denise said, turning to Marcus while Zoe was distracted by her sundae. "Tell me about this Sarah. How long have you been together?" "We're not together. We're just talking." "Just talking," Denise smirked. "That's how it always starts." "What do you want, Denise?" "What makes you think I want something?" "Because you always want something." Denise's expression hardened for just a moment, then smoothed back into false sweetness. "I want to spend more time with my daughter. Is that so wrong?" "You've had 3 years to spend time with her. You chose to leave." "I made a mistake. People make mistakes, Marcus. Surely you of all people understand that." She glanced toward the door, as if expecting someone. "I'm thinking about moving back to town, getting a place nearby. Maybe we could work out a new custody arrangement." Marcus felt ice form in his stomach. "We have an arrangement." "Arrangements can change. I've been talking to a lawyer." "A lawyer?" "Don't look so worried. I just want to be part of Zoe's life again."
Isn't that what's best for her? Having both parents around?
Marcus wanted to scream. He wanted to tell her that the best thing for Zoe would have been a mother who didn't abandon her for a man with a bigger bank account. But he couldn't. Not here. Not in front of his daughter. "We'll discuss this later," he said through clenched teeth. "Of course," Denise smiled. "We have plenty of time." After they left the ice cream shop, after Denise had kissed Zoe goodbye with promises to call soon, promises Marcus knew she wouldn't keep, he sat in his truck for a long time, hands gripping the wheel. "Daddy?" Zoe's voice was small from the back seat. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby girl." "Is Mommy really moving back?" Marcus met his daughter's eyes in the rear-view mirror. They were filled with hope and fear in equal measure. "I don't know, sweetheart. We'll see." He drove home in silence, Denise's words echoing in his mind. "Women like her don't end up with men like you."
Not unless they want something. It was poison. He knew it was poison. But poison had a way of seeping in, no matter how hard you tried to keep it out. That night, Marcus called Sarah. "Hey," she answered, her voice warm. "I was just thinking about you. Can we talk?" Something in his tone must have alerted her. "What's wrong?" "I saw Denise today. At the park." Silence on the other end. "She mentioned the speeding ticket," Marcus continued. "Said you didn't tell her you knew me." "I didn't realize who she was until I saw her license. By then, I'd already written the citation." Sarah paused. "Marcus, I told you this already." "I know, He rubbed his face. "She's talking about moving back. Talking to lawyers about custody." "She can't just take Zoe. You have full custody." "She's her mother. Courts favor mothers." "Courts favor what's best for the child. And you've been raising Zoe alone for 3 years. That matters." Marcus wanted to believe her, but Denise had a way of getting what she wanted. She always had. "There's something else," he said. "Something she said about you." "About me?" "She said women like you don't end up with men like me. Not unless they want something." The silence that followed was heavy, loaded. "And you believed her?" "I don't know what to believe, Sarah. I want to trust you. I do. But I've been burned before. By you. By Denise. I've got Zoe to think about, and I can't—" "Marcus." Sarah's voice was firm, but gentle. "I'm not Denise. And I'm not the same woman who walked out on you 10 years ago. I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm asking you to see me for who I am now." "And who are you now?" "I'm someone who made the worst mistake of her life and has spent 10 years trying to become worthy of a second chance. I'm someone who thinks about you every morning and every night. I'm someone who wants to be part of your life and Zoe's life, if you'll let me." Marcus closed his eyes. "I want to let you in. I do. But I'm scared." "I know you are. I'm scared too." Sarah's voice softened. "But being scared doesn't mean we shouldn't try. It just means we have something worth fighting for." They talked for another hour. About fear, about trust, about what it meant to build something new on the ruins of the past. By the time Marcus hung up, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Fragile, uncertain hope, but hope nonetheless. The next few weeks were complicated. Denise kept her word about one thing. She moved back to town, got an apartment 15 minutes from Marcus's house, started showing up at Zoe's school events, inserting herself back into their lives like she'd never left. Zoe was confused, happy to see her mother, but wary too. She'd been hurt before. She remembered the nights she'd cried for her mommy, the phone calls that never came, the promises that were always broken. "Daddy," she asked one night, climbing into his lap, "does Mommy love me?" The question broke Marcus's heart.
Of course she does, baby girl. In her own way. Then why did she leave? How do you explain abandonment to a 7-year-old? How do you tell your daughter that sometimes people leave, not because of anything she did, but because of who they are? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, Marcus said carefully. Big mistakes that hurt the people they love. Your mommy made a mistake when she left. But that wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. Zoe was quiet for a long moment. Is Sarah going to leave too? The question caught him off guard. What makes you ask that? Grandma says she left you before, a long time ago. She says people who leave once will leave again. Marcus made a mental note to have a conversation with his mother. Sarah did leave me once, he admitted. When we were young. It hurt a lot. But people can change, Zoe. People can grow up and learn from their mistakes.
Do you think Sarah changed? I think she's trying to. Just like I'm trying to be the best daddy I can be for you. Zoe considered this with the seriousness only a child could muster. I like Sarah. She's nice. She doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. You like her? Uh-huh. She told me about being a police officer. She said it's hard, but she helps people. That's what you do too, Daddy. You help people. Marcus hugged his daughter tighter. I try, sweetheart. Maybe Sarah's a helper too. Maybe that's why she came back. To help us. Out of the mouths of babes. Marcus didn't say anything, but that night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he thought about what Zoe had said. Maybe that's why she came back. To help us. Or maybe she came back to finish what she started 10 years ago. Either way, Marcus knew one thing for certain. He couldn't keep standing on the sidelines. Sooner or later, he was going to have to make a choice. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Marcus had invited Sarah over for dinner, her first time meeting Zoe in his home, on his turf. He'd spent all afternoon cooking, something he rarely did, wanting everything to be perfect. Zoe had helped set the table, chattering excitedly about showing Sarah her room and her dinosaur collection. For the first time in weeks, she seemed genuinely happy. Then the doorbell rang. Marcus opened it, expecting Sarah. Denise stood on his porch. "Surprise," she said, pushing past him into the house. "I thought I'd drop by and see my daughter." "This isn't a good time, Denise." "It's never a good time for you, is it?" She spotted the set table, the candles, the effort Marcus had put in. Her eyes narrowed. "What's all this? Expecting company?" "That's none of your business." "It's my business when it involves my daughter." Denise called out, "Zoe, baby, Mommy's here." Zoe emerged from her room, her excited expression faltering when she saw Denise instead of Sarah. "Mommy? What are you doing here?" "I came to see you, sweetheart. Isn't that okay?" "But Daddy said—" Zoe looked at Marcus, confusion written all over her face. "Daddy said we're having a special dinner tonight." "Special dinner?" Denise's smile was sharp. "With who?" The doorbell rang again. Marcus's stomach dropped. He opened the door to find Sarah standing there, a bottle of wine in one hand and a wrapped gift in the other. "Hey," she said, smiling. Then she saw his expression. "What's wrong?" "Sarah." Denise's voice cut through the air like a blade. "What a coincidence. We were just talking about you." Sarah stepped inside, taking in the scene. Marcus's tense posture, Denise's predatory smile, Zoe's frightened face. "Hello, Denise," Sarah said calmly. "Officer Mitchell?" Denise's smile widened. "Here to issue another ticket?" "I'm here for dinner." "How nice. A family dinner with the woman trying to replace me." "No one's trying to replace you, aren't you?" Denise took a step closer. "Moving in on my husband, cozying up to my daughter." "Ex-husband," Marcus cut in. "And you left, Denise.
3 years ago. You don't get to walk back in and pretend that didn't happen. I made a mistake. You made a choice. There's a difference. The room crackled with tension. Zoe had retreated to the corner, hugging her stuffed rabbit, tears welling in her eyes. Sarah noticed. She set down the wine and the gift and walked over to Zoe, kneeling down to her level. Hey, sweetie, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Why is everyone yelling? Zoe whispered. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements. But it's not your fault, and nobody's mad at you, okay? Zoe nodded, sniffling. Sarah looked up at Marcus, then at Denise. This isn't the time or place for this conversation. Not in front of Zoe. Denise laughed.
Don't tell me how to act around my own daughter.
She's scared, Denise. Can't you see that?
She's scared because you're confusing her, coming into our lives, pretending to be something you're not.
Enough. Marcus's voice was quiet but firm. Denise, you need to leave.
Excuse me?
This is my house. My daughter is upset, and you're making things worse. He walked to the door and opened it. We can talk tomorrow, alone. But right now, you need to go. Denise stared at him, her face cycling through shock, anger, and finally, something that looked almost like hurt.
You're choosing her over me?
I'm choosing Zoe. I'm always going to choose Zoe. Denise looked at her daughter, still huddled against Sarah, then back at Marcus. For a moment, he thought she might fight, might scream, might do any number of things. Instead, she walked to the door.
This isn't over,
she said quietly.
Not by a long shot.
Then she was gone.
Marcus closed the door and leaned against it, suddenly exhausted. Sarah stood up, Zoe still holding her hand.
I should go, Sarah said. Give you two some time. No, Marcus shook his head. Stay. Please. They had dinner, though none of them ate much. Afterward, Sarah helped Zoe get ready for bed, while Marcus cleaned up the kitchen. By the time he went to check on them, Zoe was asleep and Sarah was sitting beside her bed, stroking her hair. She's a strong kid, Sarah said softly. She'll be okay. I hope so. They moved to the living room, sitting on the couch in the dim light. I'm sorry about Denise, Marcus said. Don't apologize for her. She's not your responsibility. She's Zoe's mother. That makes her my responsibility whether I like it or not. Sarah reached out and took his hand. What she said about me trying to replace her, that's not what I'm doing. I would never try to take her place. Zoe has a mother, even if Denise hasn't been around.
I'm not trying to be that. Then what are you trying to be?
Sarah was quiet for a long moment.
I'm trying to be whatever you need me to be. Whatever Zoe needs. A friend, a partner, a second chance.
She met his eyes. Whatever you're willing to give me, Marcus. That's all I want. He didn't have words for what he felt in that moment, so he did the only thing that made sense. He kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative. 10 years of hurt and hope and hesitation packed into a single moment. Then her hand came up to his face, and his arm wrapped around her waist, and suddenly they were 22 again, young and in love, and certain that nothing could ever tear them apart. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. I'm still scared, he admitted. I know. I don't know where this is going. Neither do I. But I want to find out. He pulled back to look at her. I want to try. For real this time. Sarah's eyes shone in the dim light. For real this time. Outside, the night was quiet, peaceful, but Marcus knew the storm was just beginning. The kiss changed everything, not overnight, not in some dramatic way, but slowly, steadily, like water wearing down stone. Marcus found himself waking up with Sarah's name on his lips, falling asleep, replaying their conversations in his head. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a future that didn't involve just him and Zoe. It terrified him, but he kept moving forward anyway. 2 weeks after that night, Sarah was spending more time at his house than at her own apartment. She'd show up after her shift, still in uniform, and help Zoe with homework while Marcus cooked dinner. They'd eat together, laugh together, and for a few hours each evening, Marcus could pretend they were already a family. Zoe had warmed to Sarah completely. She'd started calling her Miss Sarah and asking when she was coming over. She'd show Sarah her drawings, ask for help with her science project, and request bedtime stories that only Sarah could tell. Stories about catching bad guys and helping people in trouble. "She's good with her," Marcus's mother admitted one Sunday afternoon, watching through the kitchen window as Sarah pushed Zoe on the backyard swing. "I know. I still don't trust her." "I know that too." Evelyn turned to face her son. "But I see how happy you are, both of you, and I suppose that counts for something." "Is that your way of giving your blessing?" "It's my way of saying, I'm trying." Evelyn's expression softened. "You deserve to be happy, Marcus. I just don't want to see you hurt again." "Neither do I, Mama." But hurt was coming. Marcus could feel it building on the horizon, like storm clouds gathering in the distance. And its name was Denise. The legal papers arrived on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was at the shop, elbow deep in a transmission repair, when Tony called him to the office. "Someone's here for you. Looks official." The process server was young, nervous, and apologetic. "Marcus Thompson?" "That's me." "You've been served." Marcus took the envelope and watched the kid practically run to his car. He stood there for a long moment, staring at his name printed on the front, knowing instinctively that whatever was inside would change everything. He was right. Denise was suing for primary custody of Zoe. The documents painted a picture Marcus barely recognized. An unstable father, inconsistent work hours, a new girlfriend with a questionable past, concerns about the child's welfare and emotional development. "This is bullshit," Marcus said, his hand shaking. "This is complete bullshit." Tony read over his shoulder, his expression growing darker with each page. "She's claiming you're neglecting Zoe? You work 2 jobs to support that kid." "She's trying to take my daughter." "Can she do that?" Marcus didn't answer. He was already calling Sarah. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, I was just thinking about Denise is suing for custody." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" "The shop." "Stay there. I'm on my way." She arrived in 15 minutes, still in uniform, her face a mask of controlled calm that Marcus had come to recognize as her cop face. She read through the documents twice, her jaw tightening with each page. "This is a character assassination," she finally said. "Half of these claims are lies or exaggerations." "But the other half?" "The other half are things any lawyer could spin." She looked up at him. "Marcus, you need an attorney. A good one." "I can barely afford rent, Sarah. How am I supposed to afford a lawyer?" "We'll figure it out." "How? You going to arrest Denise for being a terrible person?" "If I could, I would." Sarah reached for his hand. "Listen to me. She's not going to win this." "You're a good father. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with you and Zoe can see that." "The court doesn't spend 5 minutes. They read documents. They listen to lawyers. They make decisions based on paperwork and procedures." Marcus pulled his hand away and started pacing. 3 years. 3 years I raised that girl alone. 3 years of doctor's appointments and school plays and nightmares at 3 a.m. Where was Denise? Off living her best life with her rich boyfriend. And now she wants to waltz back in and take my daughter. She won't. You don't know that. You're right, I don't. Sarah stood and faced him. But I know you, and I know you're not going to let this happen without a fight. So let's fight. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something he'd forgotten existed. Someone in his corner. Someone willing to stand beside him, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Okay, he said quietly. Let's fight. Finding a lawyer wasn't easy.
The good ones were expensive. The affordable ones were overworked. Marcus spent 3 days calling every family attorney in the county, getting quotes that made his stomach turn, and consultations that left him more confused than when he started. It was Sarah who finally found the answer. My partner's wife is a family lawyer, she said one evening, handing Marcus a business card. She's willing to take your case pro bono. Pro bono? Why would she do that? Because I asked, and because she believes in helping people who deserve it. Marcus stared at the card. I can't accept charity. It's not charity, it's help. There's a difference. Sarah sat down beside him. Marcus, I know you're proud. I know you're used to doing everything yourself. But this isn't a transmission you can fix with your own 2 hands. Let me help you. Let us help you. He wanted to argue. Every instinct told him to refuse, to find another way, to handle it on his own like he always had. But Zoe's face flashed in his mind. Her smile, her laugh. The way she called him Daddy like it was the most important word in the world. This wasn't about his pride. This was about her. Okay, he said. Set up the meeting. The lawyer's name was Patricia Okafor. She was sharp, experienced, and didn't waste time with pleasantries. Your ex-wife doesn't have a strong case, she said after reviewing the documents. Abandonment, lack of contact for 3 years, no financial support. The court will take all of that into account. Then why am I so worried? Because family court is unpredictable. Judges have biases. Denise clearly has money behind her, probably from her new boyfriend. Money can buy good lawyers, and good lawyers can make even weak cases look strong. So what do? We document everything. Every school event you attended, every doctor's appointment, every moment you've been there for Zoe. We build a picture of who you are as a father, the real picture, not the one Denise is trying to paint. Patricia leaned forward. And we find out what she really wants. What do you mean? In my experience, custody battles are rarely about custody. They're about power, control, revenge. Whatever Denise's real motivation is, that's our leverage. Marcus thought about the woman who had walked out on him 3 years ago. The woman who had chosen a bigger house and a fatter wallet over her own daughter. She wants to hurt me, he said slowly. This isn't about Zoe at all. Then we use that. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest of Marcus's life. Depositions, document requests, character witnesses. Every aspect of his life was dissected and examined under a microscope. Where did Zoe go to school? What were her grades like? How often did Marcus work late? Who watched her when he wasn't home? What was his relationship with Sarah Mitchell? That last question came up again and again. They're trying to make Sarah look like a liability, Patricia explained. A new girlfriend, a police officer with her own past. It's easy to spin. Sarah's past? What past? Patricia hesitated. You should ask her yourself. That night, Marcus did. They were sitting on his porch after Zoe had gone to bed. The air was warm, thick with the promise of summer. Patricia said something today, Marcus began, about your past. Sarah's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. I figured that would come up. What is she talking about? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When I first joined the force in California, I was young, reckless, thought I knew everything. She stared out at the darkness. There was an incident, a suspect I was pursuing. He ran, and I chased him into an alley. He turned on me, and She swallowed. I discharged my weapon. Marcus felt his blood run cold. You shot someone? It was ruled justified. He had a knife. Internal affairs cleared me completely. Sarah finally met his eyes. But it stays with you. The paperwork follows you. And people like Denise's lawyers, they know how to make justified look questionable. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you to look at me differently. Her voice cracked. Because I've spent 10 years trying to be someone worthy of a second chance, and I was afraid this would ruin everything. Marcus didn't know what to say. Part of him understood. Everyone had things in their past they weren't proud of. But another part of him felt the familiar cold of betrayal creeping in. Is there anything else? He asked. Anything else I should know? Sarah hesitated. My mother called last week. Your mother? She found out about us. About you. Sarah's laugh was bitter. She's not happy. What does that mean? It means she's threatening to cut me off. From the family. From everything. If I don't end this relationship. Sarah looked at him. She said I was throwing my life away on someone who wasn't good enough. Marcus felt the words like a punch to the gut. And what did you say? I told her to go to hell. You did? Not in those exact words, but close enough. Sarah reached for his hand. Marcus, I'm not 23 anymore. I'm not the woman who let her mother make her decisions. I choose you. I choose this. Whatever comes next, I'm not running. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe her. But trust was a fragile thing, and his had been broken too many times. The custody hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Marcus barely slept the night before. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every scenario, every question, every possible outcome. By the time his alarm went off, he felt like he'd already lost. Daddy? Zoe was standing in his doorway, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Hey, baby girl. What are you doing up so early? I couldn't sleep. She climbed onto his bed and snuggled against his side. Daddy, are you going to court today? How do you know about that? I heard you and Grandma talking. Zoe looked up at him with those big brown eyes. Is Mommy trying to take me away? Marcus's heart shattered. Come here, sweetheart. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her small body. Nobody's taking you anywhere. You hear me? Nobody. But what if the judge says, the judge is going to see how much I love you, how much we love each other, and that's what matters. That's all that matters. Promise? I promise. He meant it, but as he held his daughter in the early morning darkness, Marcus felt the weight of that promise pressing down on him like a stone. The courthouse was cold and impersonal. Marcus sat at the defendant's table with Patricia, watching Denise and her expensive lawyer whisper to each other across the aisle. She looked different today, softer, more maternal. The transformation was so complete it was almost impressive. Almost. Sarah was in the gallery, sitting beside Evelyn. They'd formed an unlikely alliance in the weeks since the lawsuit was filed, united by their shared concern for Marcus and Zoe. He caught Sarah's eye, and she gave him a small nod of encouragement. The hearing lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of testimony and cross-examination and legal jargon that made Marcus's head spin. Patricia was brilliant, sharp and precise, cutting through Denise's fabrications with surgical skill. But Denise's lawyer was good too.
better than good. He painted Marcus as an overworked, distracted father who prioritized his new girlfriend over his daughter's well-being. Then came Denise's testimony. She cried on the stand, actual tears streaming down her face as she talked about missing her daughter, about the mistake she'd made leaving, about how she'd changed and grown and just wanted to be a family again. Marcus wanted to scream, wanted to stand up and call her a liar in front of everyone. But Patricia's hand on his arm kept him seated. "Your turn," she whispered. "Show them who you really are." When Marcus took the stand, he didn't think about the lawyer's questions, or the judge's expression, or Denise's smug smile. He thought about Zoe. "Mr. Thompson," Denise's lawyer began, "isn't it true that you work 2 jobs, often leaving your daughter in the care of others?" "I work 2 jobs to provide for my daughter, to make sure she has food on the table, and clothes on her back, and a roof over her head." "But doesn't that mean you're often absent?" "I've never missed a school play, never missed a parent-teacher conference, never missed a single moment that mattered." Marcus's voice was steady. "My daughter knows I love her. She knows I'm there for her. That's more than some people can say." "Some people? Are you referring to my client?" "I'm referring to anyone who thinks being a parent is about showing up when it's convenient." The lawyer tried to rattle him, tried to make him angry, defensive, unreliable. But Marcus held steady. He talked about the 3 years of solo parenting, the sleepless nights, the homework help, the bedtime stories. The moment Zoe had looked at him after Denise left and asked, "Daddy, why did Mommy go away?" By the end of his testimony, there were tears in more than a few eyes in the gallery. The judge called a recess to consider the evidence. Marcus stepped outside for air, his whole body shaking with adrenaline and exhaustion. Sarah found him on the courthouse steps. "You were incredible in there," she said. "I don't feel incredible. I feel like I'm going to throw up." "That's normal." She sat down beside Marcus. "Whatever happens in there, I need you to know something." "What?" "I love you." The words hung in the air between them. "I know the timing is terrible. I know everything is falling apart, but I need you to know, I love you. I've loved you since we were 22 years old, and I've never stopped." Marcus looked at her. This woman who had broken his heart and was trying so hard to mend it. This woman who had stood by him through the worst weeks of his life. This woman who had chosen him over her own family. "I love you too," he said. They sat there in silence, holding hands, waiting for their future to be decided by a stranger in a black robe. When the bailiff called them back in, Marcus's stomach dropped. The judge took her seat and shuffled through her papers. The silence in the courtroom was suffocating. "I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony," she began. "This is a difficult case, with strong feelings on both sides." Marcus gripped the edge of the table. "However, the law is clear. The welfare of the child must be the primary consideration, and in this case, the evidence overwhelmingly supports maintaining the current custody arrangement." Marcus felt the breath leave his body. "Mr. Thompson has demonstrated consistent, devoted parenting for the past 3 years. He has maintained a stable home, ensured his daughter's educational and emotional needs are met, and shown the kind of dedication this court rarely sees." Denise made a small sound of protest. Her lawyer silenced her with a look. Mrs. Thompson's sudden interest in custody, after 3 years of minimal contact, does not reflect well on her commitment to the child's welfare. Her claims against Mr. Thompson were largely unsubstantiated, and in some cases, demonstrably false. The judge looked directly at Denise. "Parenting is not a part-time job, Mrs. Thompson. It's not something you can walk away from when it's inconvenient and return to when it suits you." Marcus felt Sarah's hand find his under the table.
Custody will remain with Mr. Thompson. However, I am ordering supervised visitation for Mrs. Thompson to be reviewed in 6 months. Additionally, all parties will attend family counseling to ensure healthy co-parenting going forward. The gavel came down. It was over. Marcus turned to Patricia, unable to form words. She smiled and squeezed his shoulder. "You did it." He looked back at the gallery. His mother was crying. Sarah was smiling through tears of her own. And Zoe, his baby girl, safe. Denise stormed past without a word, her lawyer trailing behind. But Marcus barely noticed. He was already moving toward the gallery, toward the people who mattered. His mother hugged him first. "I'm so proud of you, baby." "Thanks, Mama." Then Sarah. She threw her arms around him, and he held her like she was the only thing keeping him upright. "It's over," she whispered. "It's over." But even as he said the words, Marcus knew they weren't entirely true. The custody battle might be finished, but the war was just beginning. Because later that night, as he was tucking Zoe into bed, his phone buzzed with a text from a number he didn't recognize. "This isn't over, Marcus. You took my daughter from me. I'm going to take everything from you." He stared at the message, his blood running cold. Denise wasn't giving up. She was just getting started. Marcus didn't sleep that night. He sat in the dark living room, phone in hand, reading Denise's message over and over until the words burned themselves into his memory. Part of him wanted to call the police. Part of him wanted to drive to her apartment and confront her directly. But the rational part, the part that had kept him alive and sane for 35 years, knew better. Denise wanted a reaction. She wanted him to lose control, to give her ammunition for another legal battle. He wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Instead, he screenshot the message and forwarded it to Patricia with a simple note. "She's not stopping." Patricia's response came at 6 a.m. "Document everything. Don't engage. We'll handle this." Easy for her to say. The next few weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Denise didn't make any overt moves, nothing that could be reported or prosecuted. Instead, she worked in shadows, whispering poison wherever she could. Marcus started noticing the looks at Zoe's school. The other parents who used to smile and wave now avoided eye contact. The teachers who used to chat with him at pickup suddenly had somewhere else to be. "Mr. Thompson, can I speak with you for a moment?" Zoe's principal, Mrs. Henderson, caught him in the hallway one afternoon. She was a kind woman, gray-haired and grandmotherly, but today her expression was troubled. "Is everything all right at home?" "Of course. Why do you ask?" "We've received some concerns from other parents about Zoe's home situation." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. What kind of concerns? "I'd rather not say specifically, but I want you to know that we take the welfare of our students very seriously." "Mrs. Henderson, whatever you've heard, it's not true. I just won a custody battle because the court determined I'm a fit parent. If someone is spreading lies about me, I'm not accusing you of anything, Mr. Thompson." She held up her hands. "I'm just informing you, as a courtesy." Marcus left the school that day feeling like he'd been punched in the gut. Denise was turning the community against him. "She called my mother," Sarah said that evening, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Told her all kinds of things about you, about us. Said you were using me, that I was throwing my career away for a man who would never amount to anything." "And what did your mother say?" "She said I should listen." Sarah laughed bitterly. 20 years of disappointing her, and now she's siding with my ex's ex-wife. You can't make this stuff up. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't want you to get caught up in all this." "Stop." She grabbed his hand. "I'm not caught up in anything. I chose to be here. I choose you.
Whatever Denise throws at us, we handle it together. Understood?" Marcus nodded, but the weight on his chest didn't lift. How long could they keep fighting? How long before the constant pressure broke them? The answer came sooner than he expected. It was Zoe's 8th birthday, a milestone Marcus had been planning for weeks. He'd rented out the community center, invited all her friends from school, hired a magician, and ordered a cake shaped like a dinosaur. Sarah had helped with the decorations, spending hours blowing up balloons and hanging streamers. Everything was perfect, until no one showed up. They waited. 30 minutes. An hour. The magician performed for an audience of 3. Marcus, Sarah, and Zoe, his enthusiasm waning with each empty chair. Zoe didn't cry. That was almost worse. She just sat at the head of the long, empty table, staring at her dinosaur cake with hollow eyes. "Where is everyone, Daddy?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe there was a mix-up with the invitations." "I gave them to everyone. I made sure." Marcus exchanged a look with Sarah. They both knew the truth. Denise had gotten to the other parents, had warned them about the unstable home environment, had convinced them to keep their children away. This wasn't a custody battle anymore. This was destruction. "You know what?" Sarah stood up suddenly, her voice bright with forced cheer. "I think this is actually better. Now we don't have to share the cake with anyone." Zoe looked up at her. "Really? Really? More cake for us? Plus, I happen to know that your daddy has a surprise planned, don't you, Marcus?" Marcus blinked, caught off guard. Then he understood. "That's right. I was going to wait until later, but since it's just us, how would you feel about going to the zoo tomorrow? Just the 3 of us." Zoe's face lit up. "The zoo? With the elephants?" "With everything. We'll see every single animal if you want." "Can we get ice cream too?" "As much as you can eat." For the first time that day, Zoe smiled. It was small, fragile, but it was real. They spent the rest of the evening eating cake and watching movies, the 3 of them curled up on the couch like a real family. Zoe fell asleep between them, her head on Marcus's shoulder, her hand clutching Sarah's. After he carried Zoe to bed, Marcus found Sarah in the kitchen, washing dishes with tears streaming down her face. Hey, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "That little girl deserves better than this. Better than having her birthday ruined by a bitter, vindictive woman who's supposed to be her mother." "I know. How do you stay so calm? How do you not just lose it?" "Because losing it won't help Zoe." Marcus took the dish from her hands and set it aside. "Because my daughter needs me to be strong. And because I have you." Sarah looked at him, mascara smudged, eyes red-rimmed. "You have me, for as long as you want me." "How about forever?" The word hung between them. Marcus hadn't planned to say it, hadn't planned any of this. But standing there in his tiny kitchen, watching this woman cry over his daughter's pain, he knew. He knew. "Marcus." "I know the timing is insane. I know everything is a mess. But I love you, Sarah. I've loved you since we were kids, and I'm going to love you until I die. Whatever happens with Denise, whatever happens with your family, I want to face it together. For real. Forever." Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed, a wet, messy sound somewhere between joy and disbelief. "Are you proposing to me over dirty dishes?" "I guess I am." "You don't even have a ring." "I'll get one. I'll get you the biggest ring you've ever seen. But right now, all I have is me. Is that enough?" Sarah's answer was to kiss him, deep and fierce and full of everything they'd been building toward for months. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Yes, it's enough. It's more than enough." They held each other in the kitchen until the water ran cold, and for the first time in weeks, Marcus felt something other than fear. He felt hope. The engagement was supposed to be their secret, at least until the dust settled with Denise. But secrets had a way of getting out. 3 days later, Marcus came home from work to find an unfamiliar car in his driveway. A sleek black Mercedes that screamed money. His first thought was Denise. His second thought was worse. He walked through his front door to find Sarah sitting rigid on the couch, across from an elegant Asian woman in her 60s. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same sharp cheekbones, the same determined jaw. But where Sarah's eyes were warm, this woman's were ice. "Marcus," Sarah said, her voice carefully neutral. "This is my mother, Helen Chen." Helen didn't stand, didn't offer her hand, just looked him up and down like she was appraising livestock. "So this is him." Mother, 35 years old, a mechanic, single father. Helen's tone made each word sound like an accusation. "This is what you're throwing your life away for?" "I'm not throwing anything away." "You had a future, Sarah. A real future. The Chen name means something in this community, and you want to tie it to this?" Marcus had heard enough. "Mrs. Chen, with all due respect, I didn't invite you into my home so you could insult me." Helen's eyes snapped to him. "I wasn't speaking to you. You're speaking about me, in my house. So yeah, I think I get a say." "Marcus," Sarah started. "No, Sarah. I've been quiet while Denise tried to destroy my life. I've been quiet while the whole town turned against me. But I'm done being quiet." He turned to Helen. "You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through or what I've built. All you see is a black man who works with his hands, and you've already decided I'm not good enough for your daughter." "This isn't about race, isn't it?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Ma'am, I've been black for 35 years. I know exactly what this is about." Helen's face reddened. "I simply want what's best for my daughter." "Then you should want her to be happy. And she is, with me." Marcus moved to stand beside Sarah. "I love your daughter. I'm going to marry her. And you can either accept that and be part of our lives, or you can leave. But you don't get to come into my home and tell me I'm not good enough. Not anymore." The silence that followed was deafening. Helen looked at her daughter. "Is this really what you want? This life? This struggle?" Sarah stood and took Marcus's hand. "This isn't a struggle, Mother. This is love. Real love. The kind you and Father never had." Helen flinched like she'd been slapped. "I spent my whole life trying to be what you wanted," Sarah continued. "The perfect daughter, the perfect student, the perfect disappointment. And it nearly destroyed me. Marcus sees me for who I really am. He loves me anyway. That's worth more than all the money and status in the world. If you do this," Helen said quietly, "if you marry him, I won't be there. I know. You'll be cut off, from the family, from everything. I know that too." Mother and daughter stared at each other across an unbridgeable divide. Then Helen stood, smoothing her skirt with practiced precision. "I hope you know what you're doing." "For the first time in my life," Sarah said, "I do." Helen left without another word. The Mercedes pulled out of the driveway, and just like that, she was gone. Sarah collapsed against Marcus, all the strength draining from her body. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry you had to see that." "Don't apologize for her. She's my mother. That doesn't give her the right to treat you like that, to treat either of us like that." Sarah pulled back to look at him. "You stood up to her. No one's ever done that before." She needed to hear it. She'll never forgive you. I can live with that. Marcus cupped her face in his hands. Can you? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. He could see the war playing out behind her eyes. Years of conditioning, battling against the woman she was becoming. Yes, she finally said. I can. The fallout from Helen's visit was immediate. Sarah's phone blew up with calls from relatives she hadn't spoken to in years. Her brother left a voicemail calling her a disgrace. Her father, silent and obedient as always, sent a single text. Your mother is very upset. She didn't respond to any of them. Instead, she threw herself into building a life with Marcus and Zoe. She officially moved in the following week, her belongings fitting easily into the spaces Marcus had made for her. They established routines, breakfast together, dinner together, bedtime stories where they took turns doing voices. For Zoe, it was like a dream come true. Sarah, will you be my new mommy? The question came out of nowhere, during a quiet Saturday morning when they were making pancakes together. Sarah froze, spatula in hand. What did you say, sweetheart? I asked if you're going to be my new mommy. Because you live here now, and you're going to marry Daddy, and that's what mommies do, right? Sarah looked at Marcus, who was watching from the doorway, his expression unreadable. Zoe, honey. Sarah knelt down to the little girl's level. I would be so honored to be your new mommy. But you already have a mommy, Denise, and that's never going to change. But she's not nice. She makes Daddy sad. I know, but she's still your mommy, and I would never try to replace her. Sarah took Zoe's small hands in hers. What I can promise is that I'll always be here for you. I'll always love you, and I'll always, always be your friend. Is that okay? Zoe considered this with a gravity only a child could muster. Can I call you Mama Sarah? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I would love that. Zoe threw her arms around Sarah's neck. I love you, Mama Sarah. I love you too, baby girl. Marcus watched them embrace, his heart so full it hurt. This was his family. This was what he'd been fighting for. And he wasn't going to let anyone take it away. The supervised visitation sessions with Denise were tense affairs. They took place at a family counseling center, with a court-appointed monitor present at all times. Zoe was nervous before each visit, clutching Marcus's hand until the last possible moment. Do I have to go, Daddy? It's just for an hour, sweetheart, and I'll be right here waiting when you're done. Promise? I promise. The first few sessions were disasters. Denise spent more time complaining about the unfairness of supervised visitation than actually engaging with her daughter. Zoe came out quiet and withdrawn, asking to go home. But somewhere around the fourth session, something shifted. Maybe it was the counselor's intervention. Maybe it was Denise finally realizing that her behavior was only hurting her case. Or maybe, and this was the possibility Marcus didn't want to consider, maybe she actually missed her daughter. Whatever the reason, the visits started improving. Zoe came out of sessions talking about games they'd played, things they'd talked about. She even showed Marcus a drawing Denise had made for her, a clumsy stick figure family that Zoe had carefully folded and placed in her pocket. Mommy drew this for me, she said, not quite meeting his eyes. Is that okay? Of course it's okay, sweetheart. She's your mommy. But she was mean to you, and to Mama Sarah. Marcus knelt down to look his daughter in the eye. Zoe, whatever happens between me and your mommy, that's grown-up stuff. You don't have to feel bad about loving her. You're allowed to love both of us. That's what hearts are for. They're big enough to love lots of people. Even people who make mistakes? Especially people who make mistakes. He pulled her into a hug. Everyone makes mistakes, baby girl. even daddies. The important thing is that we try to do better. That night, after Zoe was asleep, Marcus told Sarah about the conversation. "She's remarkable," Sarah said. "Most kids would be completely messed up by all this."
But she's handling it better than any of us. She gets it from her grandmother. That woman is made of steel. And from her father. Sarah squeezed his hand. "You've done an amazing job with her, Marcus. I hope you know that. I had help. I have help." He looked at her. "Speaking of which, how are you doing? Really?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I miss my family. I hate that I miss them, but I do. My brother used to make me laugh until I cried. My father used to take me fishing when I was a kid. And my mother," she sighed, "my mother wasn't always like this. She used to be warm, loving, before my grandfather died and left her with all those expectations. Maybe she'll come around. Maybe." Sarah didn't sound convinced. "But even if she doesn't, I don't regret my choice. I'd rather have you and Zoe and this life than go back to being the person I was." "And who were you?" "Empty." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Successful on paper, but empty inside. Going through the motions, ticking boxes, never feeling anything real." She turned to face him.
"You woke me up, Marcus. You and that rainy night on the highway. You reminded me what it feels like to be alive." Marcus pulled her close, and they sat there in the darkness. Two people who had found their way back to each other against impossible odds. The threat Denise had sent hung over them for weeks before it finally materialized. It came in the form of a tabloid article. "Black mechanic seduces police officer in custody battle scandal." The headline was accompanied by a photo of Marcus and Sarah kissing in the courthouse parking lot after the hearing. Someone had been watching. Someone had sold the picture. The article was a hatchet job. It painted Marcus as a manipulative predator who had targeted Sarah for her connections. It dredged up Sarah's shooting incident in California, implying she was unstable and dangerous. It quoted anonymous sources who described Marcus as a neglectful father more interested in his love life than his daughter. The comment section was worse. Marcus read the first few before Sarah took the phone from his hands. "Don't," she said. "Don't do that to yourself. They're calling me a predator. They're saying I'm using you. They're saying, I don't care what they're saying. Neither should you." Sarah deleted the browser and set the phone down. "This is Denise. This is her last-ditch effort to hurt you, and it's only going to work if we let it." "What if it affects your job?" "Then I'll deal with it. I've dealt with worse." "What if it affects Zoe? What if kids at school see this? What if—" "Marcus!" Sarah grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "Stop. Breathe. We knew this wasn't going to be easy. We knew there would be setbacks. But we're stronger than some trashy tabloid article. We're stronger than Denise. We're stronger because we have each other."
Marcus wanted to believe her, but the words on the screen kept echoing in his head. Predator, manipulative, neglectful. Was that how the world saw him? Was that what people thought when they looked at him? "I need some air," he said, pulling away. "Marcus, I just need a minute, please." He walked out into the backyard and stood there in the darkness, hands shaking, heart pounding. 35 years of being a black man in America, and it never got easier. The constant scrutiny, the snap judgments, the assumption of guilt until proven innocent. He'd thought he was used to it, thought he'd developed a thick enough skin. He was wrong. "You know, I used to stand in this exact spot when you were little." Marcus turned. His mother had appeared from nowhere, the way she always did. "Mama, what are you doing here?" "Sarah called me.
Said you might need someone to talk to. Evelyn moved to stand beside him. She's good people, that one. I was wrong about her. You're admitting you were wrong? Don't get used to it. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. I saw the article, read the whole thing, comments and all. And it's garbage. Written by someone who doesn't know you, who doesn't know what kind of man you are. She turned to face him. But that's not what's bothering you, is it? Marcus didn't answer. You're wondering if any of it's true. If maybe you are what they say you are. I'm tired, Mama. I'm so tired of fighting. I know you are, baby. Evelyn took his hand, her grip surprisingly strong for a woman her age. But let me tell you something my mother told me, and her mother told her. We don't get to be tired. Not us. The world doesn't give us that luxury. So we keep fighting. We keep pushing. We keep proving them wrong every single day. Not because we have to, because we're too damn stubborn to let them win. What if I can't? You can. I raised you. I know what you're made of. Evelyn squeezed his hand. You've got a woman in there who loves you, a daughter who thinks you hung the moon, and a mother who will beat you with a wooden spoon if you give up now. Marcus laughed despite himself. You haven't used the wooden spoon since I was 12. Don't test me. Evelyn pulled him into a hug. You're going to be fine, Marcus. Better than fine. You're going to marry that woman, raise that beautiful girl, and build a life that makes all these small-minded people choke on their jealousy. You really believe that? I know it. She pulled back to look at him. Now get back in there and tell Sarah you're okay. She's worried sick. Marcus nodded. He took one more deep breath, letting the night air fill his lungs. Then he went inside, wrapped his arms around Sarah, and held on tight. The tabloid story faded, as these things always do. Something newer and juicier came along to capture the public's attention, and Marcus Thompson's name disappeared from the headlines. But the experience had changed him. He was stronger now, more certain of who he was and what he wanted. The doubts that had plagued him for months began to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence he hadn't felt in years. One evening, about a month after the article, Sarah came home from work to find Marcus waiting in the living room with candles lit and soft music playing. "What's all this?" she asked, setting down her bag. "I've been thinking." "About what?" Marcus took her hands and led her to the couch. "When I asked you to marry me, it was in the kitchen, over dirty dishes, with no ring and no plan. You deserved better than that." "Marcus, I told you—" "I know what you told me, but I want to do this right." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Sarah Collins, I've loved you for half my life. You're the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing I think about before I fall asleep. You've stood by me through the worst time of my life. You've become a mother to my daughter. You've become my home." He opened the box, revealing a simple diamond ring that had taken him 3 months to save for. "I know it's not much. I know it's not what you're used to, but it's everything I have, and I'm hoping it's enough." Sarah stared at the ring, tears streaming down her face. "It's perfect," she whispered. "It's absolutely perfect." Marcus slipped the ring onto her finger, and for a long moment they just sat there, foreheads touching, breathing the same air. "I love you," Sarah said. "I love you too." From the hallway, they heard a small voice. "Does this mean we're really going to be a family?" They turned to see Zoe peeking around the corner, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. "Come here, baby girl," Marcus said. Zoe ran into their arms, and the three of them held each other tight. A family. Finally, truly, a family. The wedding planning began the next morning. Sarah wanted something small, just family and close friends. Marcus wanted whatever made her happy. Zoe wanted to be the flower girl,
the ring bearer, and the DJ. They compromised on Flower Girl. "What about your mother?" Marcus asked one evening as they looked through venue options. Sarah's hand stilled over the laptop keyboard. "What about her? Are you going to invite her?" She made her feelings clear. "That was months ago. People change." Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. "My mother doesn't change. She calcifies. Still, she's your mother. If there's even a chance she might come around..." "There isn't." "You don't know that." Sarah closed the laptop and turned to face him. "Marcus, I love that you see the best in people. I do. But you don't know my mother like I do. She hasn't called once since she walked out of this house. Not once. She's not going to suddenly show up with a blessing and a bottle of champagne." "I know. I just don't want you to have regrets." "My only regret would be letting her ruin the best day of my life." Sarah took his hand. "I'm marrying you. I'm becoming Zoe's stepmother. That's all I need. That's all I've ever needed." Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to push harder, but he saw the pain behind her eyes, the pain she was trying so hard to hide, and let it go. Some wounds needed time. Some needed more than that. The date was set for spring, April 15th, exactly 1 year from the night Marcus had stopped on that rainy highway. Sarah had insisted on the date, calling it poetry. Marcus called it fate. In the months leading up to the wedding, something unexpected happened. Peace. The supervised visitations with Denise continued, and slowly, grudgingly, a new normal emerged. Denise showed up consistently. She engaged with Zoe without complaint. She even sent Marcus a text after one session. "Thank you for raising such an amazing kid." He didn't know how to respond, so he didn't, but he saved the message. The family counseling sessions were helping. The counselor, Dr. Williams, was a patient woman who specialized in high-conflict custody situations. She helped them establish boundaries, communication protocols, and, most importantly, helped Zoe understand that she wasn't responsible for the adult's problems. "Children often internalize their parents' conflicts," Dr. Williams explained during one session. "They believe if they were better, smarter, more lovable, the fighting would stop. It's our job to constantly reinforce that none of this is their fault." Marcus took those words to heart. Every night, he made sure to tell Zoe how much he loved her, how proud he was of her, how none of what happened between the adults had anything to do with her. "You know what, Daddy?" Zoe said one night as he was tucking her in. "What, baby girl?" "I think everything's going to be okay." "Yeah? What makes you say that?" "Because you smile more now. And Mama Sarah sings when she's cooking. And even Mommy seems less angry." Zoe hugged her stuffed rabbit close. "I prayed for everyone to be happy. I think God listened." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I think he did too, sweetheart." "Do you think he'll listen if I pray for a baby brother?" Marcus nearly choked. "Let's take one thing at a time, okay?" Zoe giggled. "Okay, Daddy." 3 weeks before the wedding, Sarah came home from work, looking shaken. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked immediately. "I got a call today. From a lawyer." "Denise's lawyer?" "No." Sarah sat down heavily on the couch. "My mother's lawyer." Marcus felt his blood pressure spike. What did she want? "She wants to meet. My mother. To talk." "After all this time?" "I know. I don't know what to make of it either." Sarah pulled out her phone and stared at the screen. She left a number, said it was urgent. "Are you going to call?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to go to hell. Part of me." Sarah's voice broke. "Part of me is still that little girl who just wanted her mother's approval." Marcus sat down beside her and pulled her close. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." "What if it's a trick? What if she's trying to manipulate me somehow?"
Then we'll deal with it together.
What if she says terrible things? What if she makes me feel worthless again?
Then I'll remind you how wrong she is. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and dialed.
Mom? It's Sarah.
Marcus couldn't hear the other end of the conversation, but he watched Sarah's face cycle through emotions: surprise, suspicion, hope, fear.
Tomorrow? Okay. Yes, I'll be there.
She hung up and stared at the phone like it might bite her. Well?
She wants to meet for lunch, just the two of us.
Sarah looked at him.
She said she's dying.
The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Dying?
Cancer. Stage 4.
She's known for a while, apparently, but was too proud to say anything. Sarah's laugh was hollow.
Typical Helen Chen. Too proud to admit she's mortal.
Sarah.
I don't know how to feel.
Her hands were shaking.
I'm supposed to be angry. I'm supposed to hate her. But all I feel is nothing. Just empty.
That's okay. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel.
What if I can't forgive her? What if she dies and I'm still angry?
Then you'll live with that, but at least you'll know you tried. Sarah met his eyes.
Will you come with me? Not to the lunch. That needs to be just us. But after? Will you be there?
I'll be there. I'll always be there. The lunch lasted 3 hours. Marcus waited in a coffee shop across the street, checking his phone every 5 minutes, resisting the urge to storm in and make sure Sarah was okay. When she finally emerged, her eyes were red, but her expression was different, lighter somehow.
How did it go?
Sarah sat down across from him and was quiet for a long moment. She apologized, really apologized, not the half-hearted kind she used to give, a real apology.
For what?
Everything. For trying to control my life, for cutting me off, for saying terrible things about you and about us. Sarah's voice wavered.
She said she spent her whole life being afraid of what people would think, afraid of not measuring up, and she pushed that fear onto me. Do you believe her?
I don't know. Maybe. Does it matter?
Of course it matters.
She's dying, Marcus. In 6 months, maybe less, she'll be gone. And all those years of anger, all that resentment, none of it will bring back the time we lost.
So what are you going to do?
Sarah took a deep breath. I'm going to invite her to the wedding. Marcus blinked. Are you sure? No, but I'm going to do it anyway. She reached across the table and took his hand. Life is too short for grudges.
I learned that from you.
From me?
You could have hated Denise forever for what she did. You could have hated me for leaving you all those years ago. But you didn't. You chose to move forward, to give people second chances.
Sarah squeezed his hand.
I want to be that kind of person too.
Marcus didn't have words for what he felt in that moment, so he just held her hand and let the silence speak for him. Helen Chen came to the wedding. She was thinner than the last time Marcus had seen her, the cancer already taking its toll. But she was there, sitting in the front row, watching her daughter walk down the aisle with tears streaming down her face. The ceremony was held in Marcus's backyard, the same backyard where he'd taught Zoe to ride a bike, where Sarah had first met his mother, where their little family had slowly taken shape. Zoe walked down the aisle first, scattering flower petals with concentrated precision. She was wearing a white dress with yellow flowers, her choice, and her smile could have lit up the entire neighborhood. Then came Sarah, and Marcus forgot how to breathe. She wasn't wearing anything fancy, just a simple white dress she'd found at a second-hand store and altered herself. Her hair was down the way he liked it.
Her face was bare except for a touch of lipstick. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "You showed up," he said as she reached him. "I'll always show up," she whispered back. The officiant was Pastor Williams from Marcus's mother's church, a round, jovial man who had known Marcus since he was a boy. He kept the ceremony short and sweet, knowing that no one had come for the sermon. "Do you, Marcus Darnell Thompson, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "And do you, Sarah Elizabeth Collins, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me by the state of Georgia, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Pastor Williams beamed. "Marcus, you may kiss your bride." Marcus pulled Sarah close and kissed her like his life depended on it. Around them, the small crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Somewhere, Zoe was yelling, "Ew!" and "Yay!" in equal measure. When they finally broke apart, Sarah was laughing at the same time. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it." Was there ever any doubt? Only every single day. He laughed and kissed her again. The reception was informal. Tables set up in the backyard, food cooked by Marcus's mother and her church ladies, music playing from a borrowed speaker. It was nothing like the elegant wedding Sarah had probably dreamed of as a little girl. It was perfect. As the evening wore on, Marcus found himself watching his new family with something like wonder. Zoe was dancing with his mother, both of them laughing as they tried to follow the beat. Tony from the auto shop was telling embarrassing stories about Marcus to anyone who would listen. Sarah was sitting with her mother, their heads bent close together, talking quietly. This was his life now. This was what he built from the ashes of heartbreak and betrayal. "You look happy." Marcus turned to find Denise standing beside him. His first instinct was to tense up, to prepare for whatever attack she was about to launch. But something in her expression stopped him. "You came," he said, surprised. "Zoe invited me. I didn't think you'd mind." "I don't." And surprisingly, he meant it. Denise was quiet for a moment, watching their daughter dance. "I'm sorry, Marcus." "For what?" "For everything. For leaving, for the custody battle, for the tabloid story." She met his eyes. "For being so angry at you for moving on, when I was the one who walked away." Marcus didn't know what to say. "Sarah's good for you," Denise continued. "Good for Zoe, too. I can see that now." "What changed?" "I did. Or, I'm trying to." She shrugged. "The counseling helped. Made me realize I was punishing you for my own mistakes. I was so busy being angry at you for being happy that I forgot to try being happy myself." "And now?" "Now I'm going to stop fighting. I'm going to be the best mother I can be, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to let you and Sarah raise our daughter the way you've been raising her." Denise's voice caught. "You did a good job, Marcus. I didn't want to admit it, but you did." "It wasn't easy." "I know. That's what makes it matter." She touched his arm briefly. "Take care of them. Both of them." "I will." Denise nodded once, then walked away to say goodbye to Zoe before leaving. Sarah appeared at his side a moment later. "What was that about?" "Closure, I think. Good closure or bad closure." Marcus watched Denise hug Zoe, watched their daughter smile and wave goodbye, watched his ex-wife walk away without looking back. "Good," he said. "Finally good." The first year of marriage wasn't easy. Sarah got promoted to detective, which meant longer hours and more dangerous cases. Marcus expanded the auto shop, taking on 2 new employees and more responsibility. Zoe started 3rd grade and discovered, to everyone's surprise, that she had a gift for mathematics. They argued about money, about time,
about whose turn it was to cook dinner and clean the bathroom and help with homework. They went to bed angry sometimes and woke up determined to do better. That was marriage. The real kind. Not the fairy tale they'd grown up believing in, but something better, something messier and harder and infinitely more rewarding. Helen Chen died in September, 7 months after the wedding. Sarah was at her bedside, holding her hand, when she took her last breath. Marcus waited in the hallway, giving them privacy, ready to catch Sarah when she fell. "She said she loved me," Sarah told him later, her voice raw from crying. "Right at the end. She said she was proud of me. I'm glad. I didn't think I'd care. I spent so many years trying not to care what she thought. But hearing her say that..." Sarah broke down completely. "I needed to hear that. I didn't know how much until she said it." They buried Helen Chen on a Tuesday afternoon. The funeral was small but dignified, exactly as she would have wanted. Sarah's father came, frail and quiet, and hugged his daughter for the first time in years. Her brother apologized, awkwardly but sincerely, for the things he'd said. Family was strange that way. It took a death to remind them how to live. Life continued. Zoe turned 9, then 10, then 11. She grew taller, smarter, more stubborn, if that was possible. She started calling Sarah Mom without the mama prefix, a change that made Sarah cry happy tears for 3 days straight. Marcus's auto shop became a fixture in the community. He hired local kids, taught them the trade, gave them something to be proud of. Tony retired and left Marcus his customer list, which doubled the business overnight. Sarah made detective first grade and started leading a task force on domestic violence cases. She came home with stories that broke her heart and hardened her resolve. She never stopped believing she could make a difference. They talked about having a baby. "I'm not sure I can," Sarah admitted one night. "The doctors aren't optimistic." "Then we don't have to." "But you want more kids. I know you do." "I want you. Everything else is extra." "Marcus, I mean it." He pulled her close. "Sarah, I've got you. I've got Zoe. I've got more than I ever dreamed of. If we have a baby, amazing. If we don't, that's amazing too. I'm not going to love you any less, either way. What did I do to deserve you?" "You stopped on the side of the highway in a thunderstorm," she laughed. "That was you. See? We were both idiots. Perfect match." They tried anyway. Months turned into a year. Negative tests piled up like accusations. Sarah blamed herself. Marcus blamed the universe. They fought and cried and eventually made peace with the possibility that it wasn't meant to be. Then, 2 weeks before Zoe's 12th birthday, Sarah walked into the kitchen and set a pregnancy test on the table. Marcus stared at it. "Is that..." "Positive. 3 tests, all positive." He couldn't speak, couldn't move, could only stare at the little plastic stick that had just changed everything. "Say something," Sarah whispered. Marcus stood up so fast his chair fell over. He grabbed her, lifted her off the ground, and spun her around until they were both dizzy and laughing. "We're having a baby!" he shouted. "We're having a baby," she confirmed, tears streaming down her face. "Daddy!" Zoe came running from her room. "What's happening? Why are you yelling?" Marcus set Sarah down and turned to his daughter. "Zoe, how would you feel about being a big sister?" Zoe's eyes went wide. "Really?" "Really." The scream that followed could probably be heard 3 blocks away. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Sarah had severe morning sickness that lasted well into her 2nd trimester. Her blood pressure spiked in month 7, requiring bed rest and constant monitoring. Marcus took time off work to care for her, cooking meals, keeping her comfortable, reading to her when she got restless. Zoe stepped up too. She'd come home from school and sit with Sarah, doing homework, watching movies, asking questions about what it felt like to have a baby growing inside you. "Does it hurt?" she asked one afternoon. "Sometimes, but it's a good kind of hurt." "Is the baby going to look like Dad?" "Maybe, or maybe like me, or maybe like you." "Like me? You'll be his big sister. Part of him will always be shaped by you, by your love, by your influence." Sarah took Zoe's hand. "That's a big responsibility. Think you can handle it?" Zoe sat up straight. "I can handle it. I know you can." The baby came early, 3 weeks before the due date, on a clear spring morning that reminded Marcus of another spring morning, 2 years earlier, when he'd stood in his backyard and promised to love Sarah forever. "It's a boy," the doctor announced, holding up a screaming, red-faced bundle. Marcus cut the cord with shaking hands. They placed the baby on Sarah's chest, and she began to cry, deep, racking sobs of joy and exhaustion and overwhelming love. "He's perfect," she whispered. "Marcus, look at him. He's perfect." Marcus looked at his son, and felt something break open inside him, something he hadn't even known was closed. "What should we name him?" Sarah asked. Marcus thought about the journey that had brought them here. The rainy night on the highway, the 10 years of separation, the custody battles and family fights, and moments of doubt that had threatened to tear them apart. "James," he said, "after my grandfather." "James Thompson." Sarah smiled through her tears. "I love it." Zoe was the first to visit, after the grandparents, after the nurses had finished their checks. She approached the hospital bed slowly, eyes fixed on the tiny bundle in Sarah's arms. "This is your brother," Sarah said softly. "James. Do you want to hold him?" Zoe nodded, suddenly shy. She sat in the chair beside the bed, and Sarah carefully transferred the baby into her arms. For a long moment, Zoe just stared at him. Then she looked up at Marcus, her eyes shining. "He's so small." "He'll get bigger." "He's got your nose, Dad." "Poor kid," Zoe laughed, and the sound woke James, who let out a tiny squeak of protest before settling back to sleep.
"I'm going to protect him," Zoe said solemnly. "Forever and ever. I promise." Marcus looked at his daughter, his brilliant, stubborn, loving daughter, and felt his heart overflow. "I know you will, sweetheart. I know you will." 5 years passed like a dream. James grew from a screaming infant to a toddler, to a curious, energetic little boy who wanted to know everything about everything. Zoe became a teenager, with all the drama and emotion that entailed. But she never broke her promise to protect her little brother. Marcus's auto shop expanded to 3 locations. He partnered with a local community college to offer training programs for underprivileged youth, giving kids who reminded him of himself a chance at a better future. Sarah left the police force and started a non-profit organization helping survivors of domestic violence rebuild their lives. It wasn't as prestigious as being a detective, but it was more fulfilling. She came home tired but satisfied, knowing she was making a difference. They bought a bigger house, one with a backyard big enough for James to run around and Zoe to practice driving, and family barbecues that went late into the night. Denise became a regular presence in their lives. Not every day, not even every week, but regularly. She'd remarried, a quiet accountant who treated her well, and seemed finally, genuinely happy. She and Sarah would never be friends, but they'd learned to coexist, to co-parent, to put Zoe's needs above their own grievances. Marcus's mother moved into the guest house out back after her arthritis got too bad to live alone. She spent her days spoiling her grandchildren and giving unsolicited advice and reminding everyone that she'd called it from the beginning. "I knew that girl was trouble," she'd say,
pointing at Sarah with a wooden spoon. "You said she was going to break my heart, Mama." "I said she was trouble. I never said what kind."
Evelyn would wink. "Some trouble is worth having." On the 5th anniversary of their wedding, Marcus took Sarah back to the same stretch of highway where everything had started. It was raining again, not the angry storm of that first night, but a gentle spring shower that made the world feel fresh and new. "Why are we here?" Sarah asked, though her smile said she already knew. "I wanted to see where it all began." They got out of the car and stood on the shoulder, rain misting their faces, hands intertwined. "I was so scared that night," Sarah admitted, "standing there with my dead battery, wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life coming back here." "And now?" "Now I know I made the best decision of my life." She turned to face him. "You gave me a second chance, Marcus, when I didn't deserve one, when I'd given you every reason to drive past and never look back." "I couldn't have driven past." "Why not?" "Because stopping for people in trouble, that's who I am." "It's who I've always been." Marcus pulled her close. "And because some part of me must have known, must have felt you there, even before I saw your face, like the universe was telling me to pay attention."
"Do you believe in that? The universe, fate, all that?"
"I believe in us. I believe that two people who loved each other at 22 can find their way back to each other at 35. I believe that families can be built from broken pieces. I believe that storms pass, and that what's left behind can be more beautiful than what was there before." Sarah kissed him, long and slow, the rain falling around them like a blessing.
"I love you, Marcus Thompson."
"I love you too, Sarah Thompson." They stood there for a while longer, two people who had traveled the longest possible road to find each other. Then they got back in the car and drove home. Home to Zoe, who was probably on her phone, and James, who was probably destroying something, and Evelyn, who was probably cooking enough food to feed an army. Home to the life they built together. Home to family. As they pulled into the driveway, Marcus looked at the house he'd worked so hard to afford, at the lights glowing warm in the windows, at the bicycles scattered across the lawn and the basketball hoop over the garage. This was what he'd been fighting for. Not just survival, not just stability, but this messy, chaotic, beautiful thing called family. Sarah squeezed his hand as if reading his thoughts. "Happy?" she asked. Marcus thought about the 35 years that had brought him to this moment. The struggles and heartbreaks, the victories and defeats. The rainy night when he'd stopped to help a stranger and found the love of his life. "Yeah," he said, smiling. "I really am." They walked inside together, and the door closed behind them, and the rain continued to fall, gentle and steady, washing the world clean, preparing the ground for whatever would grow next. Some love stories begin with grand gestures and dramatic declarations. Theirs began with a dead battery, a thunderstorm, and a man who couldn't drive past someone in need. Some love stories end with wedding bells and happily ever after. Theirs continued every day, in every meal shared, and every argument resolved, and every bedtime story told, and every quiet moment when two people looked at each other and knew, without words, that they were exactly where they were supposed to be. Because in the end, love isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about finding someone worth fighting for, and fighting for them every single day, for the rest of your life.